Hi, I'm Olivia, aka Bibliocool, and today I'm going to be doing the Booktube Numbers Tag. I was tagged by ellethinks, so thank you for tagging me. And this tag was created by Jim's Books, Reading, and Stuff. So thanks for creating an awesome tag. The first question is, what was your first Booktube video? And I believe this was just like a regular TBR video. It was last year, so it was April TBR, and please don't watch it. Please watch my more recent videos where I've learned more about my reading tastes and I have a better camera. The second question is, how many books are you currently reading? And if you were to look at my story graph, it would say 5 million, but I'm actually reading 3 right now. The first one is When the Reckoning Comes by Latanya McQueen. It is about a woman who returns to her hometown for her friend's wedding, and her friend's wedding is on a plantation, and things get weird and spooky. I just started it, so I don't know yet, but I'm guessing the ghosts of enslaved people looking for revenge come into play. So I've heard such high praise for this book, and I'm really excited to get to it. The other book I'm reading is called The Care We Dream Of, Liberatory and Transformative Approaches to LGBTQ Health by Zena Sharman. And I'm about halfway through this. They're all essays about LGBTQ health, but I guess the author had previously written a book focusing on problems with healthcare, and this book is more of a look at what we can do to transform healthcare. So there's a part about disability justice, there is a part of how anarchist principles can apply to thinking about healthcare, and also some lovely poetic language in there that's very healing. So I'm really enjoying it so far. Also, the author replied to me when I posted this on Instagram and gave me this resource that she's created for people reading the book, so I definitely want to check that out. And then the third book I don't have physically, but I'll put a picture here. It is Circe by Madeline Miller. I'm listening to that, and it's just getting into her becoming a witch and all the trial and error and natural, wonderful processes, and I really am enjoying those descriptions. So I guess the number for that question would be 3 books. There are a lot of books that I'm in the middle of that I will at some point come back to, but I won't count that for things I'm currently reading. The third question is, what are the top 3 books you read last year? And I'm not very good at choosing favorites, but I am looking at this question as a what are 3 books that are coming back to me in this current moment as I film the video that are imprinted on my heart. If you watch my channel, you know I love this book. It is The Membranes by Chita Wei. At the risk of talking too much about it, I'll just say briefly that it is a science fiction book that came out in the 90s but was recently translated last year. It follows the main character Momo and her role as a skin technician in a world where climate change has ruined the environment and people live in these domes, and it's about agency of the body, it's about surveillance, it's about the climate, it's about capitalism. All of these really interesting structural things are reflected on, but it's also about mother-daughter relationships and queerness and loneliness and self-identity, and I just love it to pieces. The next one, I think, was one of the last, if not the last, books that I read last year. It's called We Do This Till We Free Us by Miriam Kaba, Abolitionist Organizing and Transformative Justice. This book is also doing 5 million things, and I love it for that, but it's also kind of hard to summarize. If you're interested in abolition at all, even just slightly, I recommend reading this book. There is discussion about what we actually want to happen when somebody harms someone and how to eliminate that harm in the future and actually change our society in the long run? Does that mean locking people up? It covers like common misconceptions about abolition and a bunch of different projects that are working on smaller ideas within abolition, and talks a lot about how reform is ineffective to actually changing things within policing and the prison industrial complex, and how we've seen how giving money and resources to these violent structures has done more harm. Yeah, it's amazing. You should read it. And the last book is a horror book. It is called The Gilda Stories by Jewel Gomez. And it's also actually from the 90s as well. It is a vampire book. Surprise, surprise. I love vampires. But I have never read anything about vampires before that made my heart just so warm and tingly. And that's not because it wasn't dark. That's because this book looks at the possibility of vampires in a different way. Saying like, what if when vampires feed and suck people's blood, they're also able to look into the minds of those people and pull out ideas that they have that are good and push them forward. I mean, these could be like small ideas about like being with family, or larger ideas about how to change society. And I thought this was so interesting. And of course, like all vampire novels, it goes through all kinds of different places and time periods, which is always fun. And of course, there's a lot of brooding and thought about eternal life. But I thought this book was so unique. So those were my top 3 books of last year, according to Right Now. Question 4 is, how many books did you read last year? I read 130, which I feel like is probably the most books I've ever read in a year. Question 5 is, how many books have you rated 5 stars this year? I have rated 13 books 5 stars this year, which is a lot, but I don't really think of my ratings as like sacred things. If a book is perfectly done and I like it, I will rate it 5 stars. Even if I won't remember it in like 3 months. For me, it's more about just characters and writing, and if the book was successful in making me feel something, I will give it 5 stars. So I'm not stingy about that. Number 6 is, do you have a reading target for the year? And are you on track? My reading goal was 100 books. I am 3 books ahead of schedule at 24 books, according to Storygraph. I would get in my head about keeping on track of this goal, so I think next year I'll just set it at 50, because I think I'll hit 100, but you know, you never want to have pressure when you're reading. And sometimes I feel like I'm just trying to get to all these books because people are recommending so many good ones, and I'd like to read more slowly in the future. But I am on track for my goal. How many pages long are the books you're reading now? Let's see. Technically, The Care We Dream Of is around 351 pages. There's a lot of citations in the back of that though. And When the Reckoning Comes is, let's see, 237 pages. I tend to read a lot of shorter books like that because then I feel like I can get to more. I don't know how long Circe is. I think it's longer, but I'm listening to the audiobook, so I don't know. The number up here somewhere. Question 8 is, how long are your videos? I try to stay under 20 minutes because I'm a newer booktuber and I know that I don't have the most peppy energy. It's more of a chill thing. So I don't know if like beyond 20 minutes people would tune into that kind of energy. Number 9 is, do you have a favorite number? And my favorite number is definitely 8. I've always disliked odd numbers because I am part of a family of 5 and my brothers are twins. So even though I'm older, I'm kind of like the odd one out in the family. And also, odd numbers, I feel like have a lot more straight lines, and I just love the shape of an 8. It's like kind of curvy and wonky. And do you have books on your shelf with numbers in the title? I'll try to go through these quickly because I have a lot. The first one is The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I have read this book. I read it in my college era when I wasn't reading a ton of books besides things for school. So I really did love this book. It's very haunting and eerie from what I remember. The next book is Virginia Woolf, A Room of One's Own, another college era read. I would like to get a version of this book with a better cover, and I'd like to read more Virginia Woolf at some point. Next is 1916, A Country is Born, an illustrated guide to the Easter Rising. When I was in school, I studied in Switzerland for a semester. It was the anniversary of 1916, so I visited Ireland and was learning all about that history in the museums, and I was super into it. So I got that as a memento. 100 Things Giants fans should know before they die. I don't think I've ever really mentioned that I'm a football fan on this channel before, but yeah, my family loved football and I grew up watching it. So someone got this for me, and someday I will get to that. Also, Love After the End, an anthology of two-spirit and indigiqueer speculative fiction by Joshua Whitehead. Seeing this on my shelf made me want to read it, and I'd kind of forgotten about it, so definitely want to get to that. Organized Labor and the Black Worker, 1619 to 1981 by Philip S. Foner. Yeah, I would love to learn more about labor, so that's why I picked up this book last month. Through the Eyes of Rebel Women, The Young Lords, 1969 to 1976 by Iris Morales. I had to read this for college, and Iris came to speak, and it was wonderful. So definitely recommend that. And the last is Forgeries of Memory and Meaning, Blacks and the Regimes of Race in American Theater and Film Before World War II by Cedric Robinson. So this is a chunky boy, and I read some of it for a grad school class, but I'd love to read more of it. And I think Cedric Robinson also has written something about Black Marxism. But yeah, that was fun. So thanks for tagging me, Elle. And if anyone else is interested in doing the tag, consider yourself tagged. And thanks for watching. Bye!